Even men at the top of their game find themselves wanting more from life. Whether it's more meaning, unshakable confidence, a bigger impact, more money, deeper love, a hotter sex life, or a powerful legacy. Find out how good your life can be on this episode of Man Alive. Also, if you're not satisfied with your love or sex life, I want you to know that I get how painful it is. Sometimes it's hard to know what to do to change things up and get the results you want. But having spent 20 years as a dating and relationship coach, supporting thousands of men to have the relationships and sex they want, I know it's possible for you when you get the right kind of support. As a woman coach, I bring a unique advantage by helping you understand how women think and feel and why they say and do things that can be so frustrating for you. My specialty is being able to tell within minutes why you're losing attraction, trust, or respect from women, and how to turn that around. Even though you've likely been raised to think you should be a man who doesn't need any help, it just doesn't work that way because none of us were handed a guide to love or sex. So every month by application, I open my calendar to a few men for consultations. Men are amazed to walk away from these sessions feeling more confident in and out of the bedroom. Coaching isn't for everyone. I work with men who are willing to be honest about their role in the situations they've created. So if you're still playing the blame game, this isn't for you. But if you're ready to take action and have a love and sex life you feel great about, book a time to meet with me. Go to shanajamescoaching.com/consult and fill out the form to tell me more about you so we can set something up. That's shanajamescoaching.com/consult. Enjoy today's podcast. Hello, and welcome to this episode of Man Alive. I'm your host, Shana James, and I'm excited to be here today to talk about something that has been very meaningful and very exciting in my own life and to my guests as well. And I had the opportunity to attend a workshop that these two amazing people taught recently, and I wanted to bring them to you. So we have Sarah and Sachi Joe from Love Passionately, and they are, would you call yourself Tantra teachers? Is that the right distinction?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, certified sky dancing tantra teachers.
Okay, beautiful. Right. So, and today, what I really want to talk about is, what is a tantric relationship or what is a tantric dynamic, and how can people, and maybe especially men, understand it and get a sense of what's possible? What does it do for people's relationships? And, I'm happy to share some of my experience of being with you too. And I'd love to hear some of your experience and what it's been for your relationship. So maybe we start with, how did you how did you find your way into this, and why did you stay? Because you both, I know you took a workshop and then now decades later you're teaching this. So tell us a little bit about that journey.
Yeah, our kids were getting older. They were in high school, and I was reading the handwriting on the wall that they were going to be leaving. And I was like, our focus was so much on the kids that I was like, what are we going to do? I don't want to just rattle around the house together and not have anything. And so I really started to look for workshops. And I'd show Sarah a workshop on the internet, a little video or what they wrote, and she'd go, "Oh no, not that. Oh no, not
Oh
that one.
no, what were you
Oh
showing
no,
her?
not that one." Whatever I found, there was a whole bunch that I found that I thought, okay, maybe this will work. But it wasn't until we got to Sky Dancing Tantra that she went, "Oh, yeah, I
Mm.
can see that." And so we went for our 20th wedding anniversary. And there was a little bit of me dragging her across country to Minnesota to California. But once we got there, we both just settled in and found it just such an amazing, open-hearted sharing place
Mm.
that we were like,
Mhm.
wow, haven't encountered this before. We really need this in our lives. And it was just so exciting to us to study with these two teachers that we signed up for more.
Yeah. When you say an open-hearted sharing place, can you one of you paint a little picture of like, what did you actually find yourself, in, right? What were you doing or what was happening there? So for people who have never done anything like this.
Yeah, thanks, Shayna. I'm really glad that you're having us on your show. I'm excited
Yeah,
to
thank you.
connect with you again and
Yeah,
your
me too.
community. Yeah, and so to talk about it, Tantra can have a lot of mystery about what is it, and there's a wide range of what it was there. And I think that was part of my hesitation, was I really wanted something that supported our relationship, not something that was too wild and invite craziness that I didn't want to handle, or that would compromise the commitment and honoring we have. And what I found was that it actually enhanced our connection. It took it to a whole different level. And it felt like it was part of this, that I always felt like there could be something more for a relationship. Isn't that why we're here, is to really live fully? And so that's where I felt Tantra gave me the tools, that sometimes it would just be even slowing down and looking in his eyes, or the heart. We do more heart sharing. And so, like, what does my heart want to say to you now is different than, well, what should we do later in the day? Should we watch TV, or should we watch
Right. And who's going to
Netflix?
pay the bills, and how's this all, like, how's
Yeah.
the housework going to get done, and all that
All
shit
the
that we have to do.
details. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And so then, when I could feel him more in my presence and more love, I had also learned to receive, because that wasn't something I realized I was very good at, that came through this.
Okay. I'm making a note, because I want to come back to receiving too. I think this is, receiving is an important one.
Yeah.
And I love what you're talking about. Okay, so there's a way of relating that most of us, in the normal everyday world, we have all this stuff we have to accomplish and things to keep our lives going. And if you're parents, there's even more. So it sounds like entering into Tantra gave you a way to connect more from the heart and more from that sense of, I don't know if you would call it sacredness. That was the word that just came to me, of like, oh, who else are we? Like, what else is possible here?
Yeah, exactly, Shayna. One of the practices we discovered in that first weekend, and it's a practice that we now teach, and we've used it literally since 2011. It's called creating sacred space. And what it allows you to do is, you can do it by yourself. You can do it with 2 people, 3 people. You can do it with a group. But we use it as a couple for our weekly time to drop in deeper. And literally, we take things, we create like a bubble, and we take things out, like the to-do list and the incomplete projects and the phone calls and the dog and the kids and we take all the things out of the bubble.
My crappy attitude.
Yeah. Well, and she takes her crappy attitude. I have to take mine out,
I can't take his.
Yeah,
Oh, right. You can't take each other's crappy attitudes out.
Yeah. That doesn't work. And then we bring things into the bubble, and we share, like, open-heartedness, or beginner's mind, or clear communication. And sometimes that depends on what we're going to do in the sacred space, because the sacred space is like the bookends. And, you start in a place, and then there's a middle that's chapters to be written. And you could say, okay, let's write this chapter, but it unfolds in the sacred space. And then you close the sacred space and you go back to normal
life. Yeah. Okay. So I want to ask you questions about the sacred space, but before we go there, Sachi Joe, I want you to give a little bit of a sense for men who are like, what the hell are you talking about? And I don't usually use the word sacred. And is this just a woo-woo bunch of whatever? Like, how did you come to, open your heart to this new way of being, or even open your heart is, for some men, like, what, I can hear that, but I don't quite get it.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. I had a similar thing. It was a bunch of new age falderall. And I just thought it was silly. But then when I saw how creating a sacred space really allowed Sarah to light up, it allowed her to feel comfortable in our sharing. And then we both could ask for what we wanted to. So often in relationships, let's say, for instance, one of us is more on the red end of things, and one of us is more on the blue end of things.
Yeah.
And we come together and we form purple.
Yes.
Well, purple doesn't really suit the red person or the blue person, but it's kind of like, okay, it's good enough. And what we decided was, how about if I bring my own redness into this sacred space? So one week I'll ask for more red activities, and the next week she'll ask for more blue activities. And so we can feel like we're individuals, even though we're in sacred space.
Yep.
And so, I saw Sarah light up in this space, and I lit up too. It was a way to connect. There's another example that we can give. There was a workshop we led that was more focused on touch,
Yeah.
and the men in the group were antsy. They wanted to get going. Let's get to the touch part. Let's get to the touch. I want to touch. I want to touch. And the women, we focused the workshop on the whole group, down, so that everything was slower, everything was more conscious. The women, when they felt safe, all of a sudden they were available. And then the men were like
dynamic and full and bright. And
like, oh my gosh, I love that.
That's why we wait. That's
right. And that sense that I think for a lot of men I work with, I'm like, okay, the concept I teach them is slowing down to speed up. Because you might think that if you speed up, you're going to get somewhere faster. But especially with a woman, if you're actually slowing down, getting more conscious, touching from a place of cherishing or adoring or even just presence, it feels so different than just a normal hands or normal touch.
Yeah, it does. It brings the consciousness into your hands. And then what happens is not only does the receiver feel more, the giver receives more.
Yeah. Beautiful. Anything else you want to say, Sarah, since we covered the okay, it seemed woo-woo to him and maybe a little scary and wild for you. Do you want to say anything about that?
Well, I think that a lot of people think Tantra is wild or, this uncontrolled. And really within Skydancing Tantra, it's more about consciousness. It's more about slowing down to listen to what do I really desire. So when I'm bringing that forth, do I want to, be in wild, passionate love? Do I want to slow down and get a sensuous touch or ask this deeper question rather than, hey, how's it going, babe? It's like, that then we have more fulfilling connection in our relationship, because I thought it was maybe going to break apart the relationship, and instead it offered so much more to it and
to bring together.
And many things that we could do together, but more how we were together that applies, that even our kids notice, that, hey, you guys are happier. What are you doing out there?
Wow. That's
our 20-year-old son. The 20-year-old son noticed.
Wow.
He said, I don't know what you're doing out there in California, but I can tell it's good for your relationship.
Oh, that's really sweet.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. And I think, I just want to acknowledge, that Tantra itself is not just the aspect of sex, right? Tantra itself is a much broader, wider spiritual teaching. And in my experiences with you and in other workshops, you get to bring in that bigger consciousness, and that for some people it's a spiritual perspective, for some people it's more, connecting with nature or humanity or whatever. But then, that we get to not just be these kind of physical beings or animal primal beings. We actually get to bring in more consciousness, like you said.
Yeah, Tantra is a philosophy, and it's a spiritual practice. But so often, Tantra really represents all. And so if you think about your whole life, it includes everything: your mind, your voice, your heart, your gut feelings, your sexual feelings, sense of belonging and rootedness. And so there are some schools that focus, let's say, on sexuality. And they're all more, hey, we all have these sexual needs. Let's express them and everything's cool. There's other Tantra schools that are more like, let's focus on enlightenment and how do we achieve enlightenment? And we sit in meditation for hours a day, and we purge our thoughts, all that. And Skydancing is more, let's work with all of it, because it's all here. And how can we merge it all into the heart space in the middle, so that you can make a more conscious decision from a more loving, connected place.
Yeah.
And we got a group of school kids walking by, which makes me wish that we were presenting in schools, because this is really information that everybody needs.
Yeah.
It's the information that we weren't given in school.
No.
How to live a better life.
That a lot. Yeah, right. How to live a better life and how to be connected and intimate and conscious and all of those things. Okay, so let's go back to the sacred space, right? You were talking about this new thing you learned to do. Now it's not new for you, but for people who haven't done this, it's there's a creating of a sacred space by, it almost feels like safeguarding, right? Creating, okay, we're going to focus on what we want to focus on here, and we're going to set aside or put on the shelf or outside of the bubble all the things that stress us out and have us feel disconnected and have us feel like overwhelmed and we can't actually feel, alive and well. We're going to bring in more of the things that we want. And then what are some of the things that happen inside that sacred space?
Yeah, that there's so much that can happen. You can have a conversation that is heart to heart. You can work out decisions you're making because you're dropping into really a deeper listening and a both listen to yourself and your partner. And so it's great to offer those things. We also do Tantra massage. We do love making within the Art of Sexual Ecstasy is the book of Margot Anand that we base a lot of our teachings on because we studied with her, and that's her school of Skydancing Tantra. And so we go back. Sometimes we'll just open a chapter and do something from the book because it is like a love and relationship manual too, in that way. That we listen to ourselves because at times, if we're struggled, we might need to go for a walk. I do some dancing sometime because that gets me more out of my head into my body, and then I can be ready to be touched or loved or whatever I want with my more intimate time.
And the other thing about it is it's a practice. The more often you do it, the easier it is, and the deeper you drop into the practice.
Yeah.
Thing about learning to drive or any other skill, after a while it's pretty unconscious, but you're there, you're present. And so we use it regularly, like even for conflict resolution, because couples have conflicts. And if you put a sacred bubble around it and do it in the sacred space, and you take out your defensiveness and your blamingness and your reactivity, and you bring in patience and love and listening, it changes the conversation.
Wow.
It's really hard to have that same, the argument is almost, it's totally different.
Yeah. And what would you say to someone who's like, well, okay, I can imagine saying that, but does that really actually bring in the deeper love, right? Like, oh, I'm saying that I'm going to be more compassionate. I'm saying I'm going to let go of my defensiveness. How have you found that actually shows up in the bubble?
Well, both parties have to be willing.
Okay.
Both parties have to be, their intention is to be clear of the stuff you don't want and to bring in what you do want. And then you're patient with each other, and then the practice. If you do this
practice, right?
Like if you do this we did this to create this podcast. We did a heart salutation, we created a bubble just to drop us into a more sacred space. And then if you just practice it regularly, it becomes easier. And then when you have the crunchier moments, the arguments and stuff like that, then you go, well, should we do this in sacred space? And if you both agree, both have to be willing, then you change the nature of the conflict. It's like alchemical. It just changes it.
Yeah, right. And then what we put our attention on, what is it? What you resist persists, or what where we put our attention, right? It shapes.
Energy flows where intention goes.
There we go. I like that one. Yeah, right.
I'm
so
being more patient to even say that out loud if I'm in an argument and saying, I'm taking out my projections about you or the past argument regarding this, and I want to stay present with what's really here.
Yes.
That we're hearing that commitment and that desire to work through things, and even that in itself helps bring you together, like, oh, we're a team working through this rather than we're two individuals that are gonna muscle
having a boxing match,
duke it out, which is a great point too, right? The team and the willingness that you spoke of. And so it has me wonder too how you support people who maybe they come to you and say, I want this, but my partner doesn't seem willing, or I want this, but my partner's freaked out about it. Have you had that happen?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, we do. And that we also do often an interview with people to talk about them, what they want out of it, and what would help the person feel ready if they've got questions, if they
Yeah.
want to understand more about it or understand what's not going to happen. So a lot of times it's our mind that's creating the fear. Because when people find they're in the experience, that often they're like, this is why I'm here. This is what I want in my relationship, or this is what I want for myself. Because I thought it was all about relationship, but I became much more confident, much more accepting of myself. It kind of took away those personal judgments that were so loud and critical.
Wow.
Because I was allowed to be more of myself instead of more of what I thought I was supposed to be. And so then that deeper acceptance.
And then the other thing, back to the blue and the red and the purple, some people are very comfortable staying purple and they don't want to change. It's like, okay, I'm happy where I am, but this person that's like, hey, maybe we could do this, maybe we could do this person has to feel into how much do I want to change, and could there be a change that's good for me as well. And so it's like Sarah might want to go to a certain movie that's not my interest, but by going with her, I support her and her interests. And there's always this give and take in a couple relationship. And it's not about she won or I win or any of that. It's more like, how can we support each other?
That's a beautiful question. Yeah. And I think sometimes when I think about the whole red and blue and purple, it's like, we could think about it in sexual styles, right? One person has a different sexual style, but it can also be, I like to connect more emotionally and you like to connect more where we're just, traveling, right? Like we have different ways of living and connecting.
Yeah, the love languages are that way. I mean, her love language may be gifts and mine may be acts of service. Well, how can I receive more acts of service? How can she receive more gifts?
Yeah.
And we understand each other's language.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's something beautiful too. And when like if you're creating dates, like you're talking about, okay, one week I get to ask for what I want. And the next week she gets to ask for what she wants. And then we go back and forth. There's like a sense of, oh, well, I know I'm going to be able to ask or able to receive. So it doesn't feel as much like I'm the only one giving or I'm the only one creating. It seems like it creates more of that team dynamic.
And the other part that really supports the team dynamic is that each person it's essential that each person say their no if there's a no, and to really honor that no. And like, let's say I want to do a tantric massage and I want to make love at the end of the tantric massage, but Sarah's in a place where she doesn't want to take off clothes. Well, then we do whatever the activity is in that state. We call it leveling. And so I match her level because it's a tighter, stronger boundary. And then what can happen is if she feels like I'm matching her, I'm respecting her, I'm present to what she needs, then she might change her mind. She might decide to go in that direction. But if I'm like, come on, get naked,
honey, come on, baby, we got to get there. Go.
That doesn't work.
Right. And we can't expect that someone definitely will change, but we know that by pushing and forcing, that's not going to happen. So it's more likely the other way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But one of my teachers, Kath and Jesse, I learned that your no is as sexy as your yes. And that's really a cornerstone, a groundwork philosophy that we have.
And for me, I could relate to it when he would say his no. Then when he said yes, like, yes, I do want to make love tonight, then it was like, yeah, I could really feel it, instead of like, well, he's kind of saying yeah, but he's tired and there's a lot. When you have that confidence that they're all in, that they really feel that excitement about it, that's where the passion can come from. And you're into passion instead of just a willingness
or going along.
And even for me as a woman in the aging, sometimes it is like, well, let's see how it'll go. It's not like a definite yes. I'm not like, oh, I'll plan right. But I'm like, let's see, let's try. And because my body will respond more than my mind will. I might be like, I'm tired, I got what to do. But if my body starts getting some love and touch, and okay, now I can be all in and get excited for
I
this.
love that you're bringing that up because, I also am in the process of getting older and hormones changing, and many women I know are. And I find that I also have that sense of it's not necessarily as like, whoa, hot, yes.
Yeah.
But there is, if I am willing, there is, things can happen and things can shift and things can open. But I also want to be careful because I think some women might think of that as like, well, then I'm going against myself. I'm not being true to myself, or I'm being out of integrity with myself, or I'm forcing myself. Do you have a way that you think about that?
Yeah, I think that if it's a complete no, for many reasons, don't. But if it's like I'm not feeling it, but I would like to still have some connection. I would like to find ways to build arousal and with you, then that can happen rather than listening to our bodies that are saying, I'm not feeling it, to
Yeah.
not just go with that, but say, how can I find, and often I use it in relationship skills, is how can I move towards a yes? What
Yes.
can happen to the yes instead of,
Right. What
leaning.
would I actually enjoy versus
Yeah,
just shutting down and being like a big fat no, which, sometimes it's okay, obviously, if we're a
Yeah.
no.
yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
and that reminds me of a time in our weekly practice. I'm a Tantra teacher. I have all these skills. I have all these options, multiple options to choose from. I could not figure out what I wanted to do. And all of a sudden, somewhere in the back recesses of my body, it said, go for a walk.
Hmm.
And I'm like, really? Go for
Really?
a
That's what I
walk?
got?
I mean, how silly is that? And I struggled to say what I wanted to do. And I finally said, I'd really like to go for a walk. And it was an amazing walk. We had a lovely time. We were looking at nature and just, walking arm in arm. And it took all the pressure away to,
Mm,
I didn't have to come up with something fancy. It was
yeah.
just like, what
Yeah.
do I really want in this moment?
Or perform sexually when you weren't in the mood
Yeah.
either. Like,
Right.
no.
Right. And that really
Mhm.
speaks to trusting ourselves. And I think what happens when we really listen and we don't judge it, or we judge it and then we realize I don't have to judge it. Um, and that sense of, oh, what happens when I don't have to perform and when
Which
I get to
takes us
show up?
which takes us all the way back to where we started in the beginning, this open heartedness.
Yes.
Because the open heartedness happens for yourself.
Yeah.
It's like, how can I open my heart to me to understand me? And we call it into me see,
Yeah.
intimacy,
Intimacy.
And so there's that whole aspect too of understanding yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And I would imagine, as couples feel safer with each other and more connected with each other, then there's a safety to be able to say, oh, okay, so, right now you're a no to that. Is there
Mhm.
anything you want to tell me? Or is there anything like what would have you feel closer? Or what do you want to be feeling? Or right, to get to explore together as a team as opposed to, oh
Mhm.
shit, you're there, I'm here. I guess this is a fail.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. And we coach couples also. And just yesterday or recently, we had a couple that was really struggling. Like, we're in this session and we're not feeling connected at all. What do we
They
do?
were literally sitting like apart.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that we don't do couples therapy, but we do, intimacy work. And so just finding ways to sit and be, saying what they were noticing, found they you could tell them getting closer and wanting to have
Uh-huh.
some physical, just being together instead of feeling the disconnect. And sometimes it is just being witnessed and taking it very slowly, as this is what I'm feeling. I'm
Mhm.
feeling tight in my chest. I'm feeling that I'm noticing the space between your leg and my leg. And that
There's
they,
something refreshing about speaking the inarguable truth.
Yes. Yes.
Like right now, I'm aware of the humidity of the air around me. I feel Sarah's leg touching mine. I'm aware that I'm in this space in nature.
Mhm.
She can't say
No, you're not.
you're not aware of that. Yeah,
Right. Right.
Mhm.
So much, it goes so much better than being like, you're being an asshole or yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so with that couple, for example, or with other couples, not to, focus necessarily on one specific couple, but um, are there times where they have to sort of release something or be heard or seen in something before they can feel closer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that there are some practices we do to sort of move some of the frustration or tension or be heard in their hurt, their
Yeah.
aloneness. And that was part of what they were also doing
Yeah.
is hearing, how it felt painful to have this disconnect and what was behind it, what was their need, because often there is a need underneath that isn't being acknowledged or witnessed and supported. Yeah, that's super important. Yeah. And then as if I were to say that, like, oh, I'm really wanting connection, I'm feeling that you're not listening to me. My job after that, back to what we were talking about earlier, is receiving it when he is doing it.
Right.
Because if I'm not receiving it, I'm going to continue this loop, this story of you never hear me, you never listen to me. But even him sitting here and listening to me through this is doing exactly what I'm saying.
Right. It's easy to get caught in the stories of you don't listen, you never listen to me versus updating our stories or being in this moment together.
Yeah. And when you've been a couple for a while, or most anybody, one look can send you into a story.
Yes.
And so it's catching yourself. And sometimes I'll say, oops, I'm going into a story and I just want to take a moment, close my eyes and just breathe in, take a few deep breaths and okay, now I'm back. I'm not in that looping. And that's the benefit of the tantric presence, is that it really quiets down those stories, or you can discern a little bit like, oh, this is that old story, instead of right now you're loving me, like now you're listening to me, and that's what I wanted. To be able to receive that though and take it in and not keep it away like, well, that's just now, and as soon as we get out of the bubble you won't hear.
You're not going to do it again.
Yeah.
And both of you mentioned, I think, struggles with receiving or learning to receive. Was there what was that process like?
Well, we're definitely more serving our professions. A long time profession has been helping others and our role in our family. And so to recognize what is the block to that, and to begin to take in, and that's where slowing down can sometimes help, of like, oh, he really is saying these words and I'm really feeling it in my heart and I really appreciate the kindness. And so it's been a journey in clearing some of the blocks, or letting go of some of the old beliefs of not deserving, or I'm supposed to just give, or that's how I earn my worth, by outputting rather than feeling like I can get anything back. Another part that I'll address to the men is that there's this conditioning that I find fairly strong in the USA. The old big boys don't cry, tough that out, don't show your emotions, don't be too girly, you'll look gay, all that kind of stuff. And thankfully it's starting to change, but men that are my generation were thoroughly immersed in that. And so they would come to like a workshop like we offer, and they'd realize, I like this man and he's okay and he's more in heart space, or, I feel more comfortable. Another example I think we can show on the screen is we had a time, it was a very introductory evening, and we just had people turn to another person. And we said, hold each other's hand. And I saw these two men like this. And they're shaking, just shaking, like a firm handshake. Yeah, they're squeezing. I'm showing my power here. I'm not weak. I'm not. And so I guided them to take some breaths, to soften, and I could watch their hands just soften, and they stayed there. And then the evening went on, and there was a number of things. And then at the end of the evening, we did a final share, and both of these two men said, that was incredible. I never thought I could simply hold a man's hand.
Wow.
And so they experienced what I was seeing. So it was confirmation.
Yeah.
But then it was just like eye-opening that they could hold a man's hand without tension.
Yeah.
And how gay or how simple that is, but how profound it is.
Right. And if we extend that out to any way that, again, this could just be beyond men, but in this example, like for a man to be in the bedroom if his partner is a woman. If I show this emotion or if I receive in this way, then I'm not going to seem manly or right. Like to really check those stories.
Yeah. And it goes both ways. There are some women that are,
right.
They want the hard, tough guy, and yet that softness is, desirable too. And so both sides need to let go of their stories.
Right. Right. I do hear that a lot too, that men come to me and say, I'm trying to show up and I'm trying to be vulnerable, but my partner who's a woman, gets disgusted or walks away or shames me or right. And it goes both ways for sure in all gender combinations. So, but it's so painful for anyone to be shamed for
one of the phrases that our teacher Margot Anand says is, we live literally in an anti-ecstatic conspiracy. Everything that's happening in the world is designed to keep us in our place, doing our jobs, mind your own business, don't make waves, don't rock the boat unless you're a superstar and we give you all this fame and adoration, then it's okay. But even then, sometimes they're locked in place about what they can and can't do. And she welcomes us to be part of the ecstatic conspiracy, to open up things and let people be who they are.
I love that. It's really exciting.
Feeling the joy, really feeling the joy.
And being allowed to feel the joy. And the pain and all of it, right? That we can actually bring it to each other.
The full human experience.
Yeah.
Amazing. So anything else you want to add? Anything that I know we could talk about this for, days and years, but.
Well, and can I just say, because we've been talking a lot about relationships, and that within our workshops, we also have people come on their
own. They're single.
They're single, and that they don't have to come with somebody, and that they can learn these skills and develop themselves or do some practices on their own.
Yeah.
Because all of it can be done. It's really about your knowing yourself, loving yourself, and that using the Tantra tools of the awareness and the energy, and how is that energy? Am I letting myself be ecstatic and vibrant in my fullness, or am I tamping myself down, and in what way? And how do I let go of some of those old stories that maybe that's what I felt. I was living small, and I'm not anymore.
I love that.
That it would have been even really stressful to be here talking, or it might be out in public. And so they're having a voice because I'm excited, and we can find our voice when we are passionate about something. So where is the passion, and how do we live in that more fully?
Awesome.
I was going to mention something similar about one of the challenges for people is if they come as a solo or if they come as a couple. They both have different challenges, and I guess my thought is just come and see what's for you. What can you take away from this for you? And it may be a sense of finding your no. It may be a sense of finding your yes. It may be just an awareness of, I've been restricted all my life, and I want to take off this layer of shame or trauma. And the other part of it is we all have traumas in our lives, and we're as trauma informed as we possibly can be, and try to create this safe environment. Because what we find is so valuable is for people to heal with other people. Trauma happens in isolation. There was something that happened in your life that was way too much for your system, your nervous system to handle. So you went into fight, flight, or freeze, one of those, fawning. And how can you be potentially feeling something like that and be with this person and be able to just, melt and be held, or soften? It accelerates the healing process so fast.
Or be in your anger as part of a healing that you didn't get to do, or be in your
whatever
ecstasy or joy that wasn't allowed to be big. And
like you said, the full range of the human experience, and not just by yourself, but actually with others or with someone else.
Yeah, so that's why we find so much value in being in these groups, because somebody in the group has an experience that's similar to yours that you might just kind of, hitchhike on and get some benefit yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
being here and doing this, and for being some of my teachers. And I feel very grateful for you, and my heart just feels so open, and grateful to be reminded of some of these pieces too. I find that I've attended Tantra workshops, and then, it kind of fades over time, and to really have this chance to bring it back for myself and for others feels very exciting. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
And where can people find you?
Yeah, we are lovepassionately.com is our website, and we have a list of events on there, and that are happy to answer questions and connect with people. And we are also directors of the national program of Skydancing Tantra, and that's skydancingtantra.org. And there's week-long programs, and Margot Anand's 3 modules of their cycles of the love and ecstasy training are part of that.
And isn't that amazing? The love and ecstasy training. How many trainings have you been to that were about love and ecstasy?
Yeah, I mean, more than most, but not enough.
Yeah.
For most people, right? It's
Going.
not, that's been my passion in life, but for most people, it's not where we are guided to put our attention. And yeah, so to open the door of, oh my gosh, I can actually focus on love and ecstasy and joy and pleasure and intimacy. It's game changing.
And back to the anti-ecstatic conspiracy. That's the whole purpose, to keep you out of your power.
So to find your love, find your ecstasy. So that's how you can find us. And thank you, Shana, for having us on, and for supporting the people living their fullness, and for your book, Honest Sex. That's awesome. And your other offerings. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm so glad you joined us for today's episode of Man Alive. I hope you enjoyed our conversation, and it gave you something to consider and explore in your life. If you like what you heard, I'd be so grateful for you to subscribe and write a quick review that helps men like you find us. And again, head over to shanajamescoaching.com/quiz, or text the word ALIVE, ALIVE, to 44144 to get a sense of how you can become a better lover and leader. You'll start to see how you can be both more respected and desired in your unique and genuine way. If you don't feel as confident or as excited about life or love as you'd like to be, this quiz is a really great starting point, and will guide you toward a more passionate love life and a more inspiring and successful career. So again, text ALIVE, ALIVE, to 44144, or head over to shanajamescoaching.com/quiz. Join us each week for a new episode of Man Alive.